to ask, I think I gave you some information that we would like to have as far as calls, how long it is to dispatch, and average time to arrival. And can you tell us how many rigs you have in Mississippi County on a daily basis and things like that?
Total on a daily basis, we have 6 trucks, 4 out of Blytheville and 2 out of Osceola.
Okay.
So I guess just quickly, since evidently this meeting is about us, just cut to the chase. As I said, I'm Jamie Pafford, and we have been servicing all of Mississippi County, minus the territories over to the west with the river, since 2008. And so Pafford strives to keep 6 ambulances, like she said, 2 in Blytheville, 4 in Blytheville and 2 in Osceola, throughout a 24-hour period, 7 days a week, all year long. That is our goal for Mississippi County, and that's about what the call volume here handles. Just so you guys know, I don't believe that I've been before the quorum court before, since the time period we've been here. For the most part, we just do our job and try to do what we have to do. Pafford does meet every month with the city of Blytheville, the hospitals, both the north end and the south end, have good working relationships with those folks, and we just make sure that if there's an issue at that point in time or they heard of something, that we can address it in a very timely fashion. And so Pafford has no problem actually providing you guys with reports, whether you want them on a monthly or quarterly basis. Pretty much we're time driven, and my family's been in the ambulance business for 54 years, and we didn't get here not listening. I'm sorry that you said that you had difficulty catching me, but I feel like that phone's attached to my ear most days of the week. But I am here to listen and to see what we can do to just get over this bridge and make sure that everyone's very confident with the job that we're doing, even the outer lying unincorporated areas. Because from a Pafford standpoint, when it doesn't matter, and I read the article in the paper about the south end of the county or what's going on, we're going to always respond in ambulance to wherever we've been requested to go. And if we can find a closer ambulance to you, we have great mutual aid and backfill agreements with Riverside, Medic One, and Emerson. We just all try to take care of business. That's what we're all trying to do, is take care of patients. So if there happens to be a closer ambulance in the situation, it's an emergency situation, and they can respond, then we do ask them to do that. And that's just typical of what a normal situation would be like for us. So that hopefully answers a few of the questions. But on an ongoing basis, pretty much we're almost fully staffed in Mississippi County. We have a lot of residents that are from here. Our medics are, majority of them from here, just a handful that are not. I want to give the guys kudos for making it through COVID, because what a lot of folks don't realize, these folks never stopped. We may have slowed down just a little bit, but each and every call was even more tough than the one before, and it really pushed us to our max. But we also realized that, during that, we lost a lot of staff, just like everyone else did in healthcare, because this isn't what most people signed up for. But we were blessed that we had some folks out in the community that wanted to be a part of the ambulance service and a part of different rescue squads, and we actually did a CEVO class as well as an EMR class, and trained a few folks throughout Mississippi County to assist with the ambulance service during that period of time. So there's been a lot that's went on in 2020 to get us to 2021, but I just basically want you guys to know that we're here to try to help and alleviate any concerns that you have or address them. If there's really an issue, we want to get down to it and see what's going on, and we're open to try to do that for you.
I don't want you to mistake part of what I said. I said that they had trouble. I don't think that most people know that in the contract it says they're supposed to contact you directly for any complaints. That's what the contract actually says. I've read it several times. And I don't think that the majority of the people knew that. They're contacting us, and they expect us to relay it to you.
And that's what should happen. There's someone from, whether it's the judge, his assistant, whomever you appoint. If you've got a problem, we want to know about it, and honestly, we want to know about it the next day so we can start pulling the records and looking and seeing what's going on. Can't fix what you don't know that's broken, and that's what we want to do.
Now, before I turn it over to questions from the community, one of the things we invited the fire departments, because I worked as an EMT for years, as Dr. Cullum knows. Worked with him in Osceola. And one of the requests that I would make is that you talked about the training. I'd like to see if we can make training available to our fire departments who might have people who wanted to be first responders. So when you had a situation where somebody went down from cardiac issues, or we had a wreck on the interstate, or a wreck and it was gonna take you a few minutes to get there, they might be able to get there quicker. Is that something you could help us with?
Absolutely, and we would encourage it. Like I told you a while ago, our first responders are pretty much the heartbeat of rural America, and we get it. I live out in the country, many of you live out in the country, and so we know that, and we all do the same thing and want to have that additional training. So that's not an issue. We're very blessed not only to have our in-house staff that can do training, but the college here locally has been a very big help to us and been able to put on classes. So those that are interested, I think that there can be whether it be monthly, usually quarterly training, and we do this in a lot of other locations. We have quarterly and semi-annual meetings with the different fire departments where there is some sort of training. And you may be talking about initial training and then ongoing training as well to help them. So there's two versions, and so I think just having good communications with our crews and the fire departments is, paramount to just being successful in that, and knowing who wants to be called out. And I'll be quite frank, and not anyone in this county so much. A lot of folks don't want to be called out. They expect you to handle that, and that's what you're there for. And so just knowing where those pockets may be in the county that we need to address is how we would move forward with that. But that's easy enough to fix. And like I said, the monthly meetings that we come in and do are very helpful, just knowing what the temperature is and what the needs are in the communities or in the outerlying areas will be helpful when we go forward.
Who would our fire departments contact at your organization about getting that training?
So, go ahead, Jessica.
It would be me. I'm Jessica. I'm the new operations manager here in Mississippi County. And we actually done back in February where we reached out through the individuals here that worked. Charles was a part of it, Tracy Seaton, Dwayne Seaton. And we actually did put 4 Mississippi County first responders through the EVO training where they got first responder and licensed through the state. And we actually hired 4 of them. I forgot about Freddie. So 4. So we've done that in February, and we can continue to do that. And that is one of the biggest thing, like Ms. Jamie said, in rural EMS, the first responders on scene that get there first, utilizes the tourniquet, starts the early CPR, along with the dispatch training. That's what saves people's lives. That's what y'all do. That's the core of EMS, especially in the rural community. I have a pocket full of business cards, and I'll hand them all out. Any training, reach out to me. We actually have one scheduled for next month, which is just a SIVO course, is driving the ambulance. And maybe we can incorporate, some first responder stuff that we've already got scheduled with our guys, and invite y'all to Bible. We have a training room upstairs, has a big whiteboard, big TV, and we do our training there. So anybody that would like it, I have a handful of business cards.
Appreciate that. And I would encourage anyone in the fire department who might have someone interested. You might not be yourself, but if you've got someone in your department who would be interested in being a first responder, please reach out to them.
And also stocking bags as well. I know Bible PD officers, they come by, we stock their bags. If they use something, they come by or they get it off the ambulance right there, then and there if time permits. But if y'all need any soft supplies, bandages y'all use, that's what we're here for. We want to help you.
As I told them, when I was on the ambulance service, and even when I was a police officer, most ambulance services, if I pulled out my ambu bag and used it, when they walked in, they just handed me the one they brought in and said, take this, we're using this one.
Yes, sir.
And then that's billed out, that's a billable item for y'all, I know that, and it's not cheap. Now,
Actually, it's not anymore.
never was.
It just added in everything else.
All right, I think we've got the preliminaries out of the way. Now, questions. Doc, I know you got some.
I got a question. First of all, how many of the fire chiefs in here knew to contact Pafford for your first responders? Did all of you know? Okay. Because where I live, a little town in Wilson, Arkansas. I live in the country. Got a 97-year-old mother that I lost yesterday, but that's beside the point. And accessibility from your location in Osceola, the 48-mile marker. South Mississippi County line is a 27.5-mile marker. when you leave Osceola, your normal response time, and you know better than I will if I'm telling the truth, is 25 to 30 minutes to Wilson, Arkansas. Now, when you get to Wilson, Arkansas, you're at the 41-mile mark. You still got to get to the 27. We got people at Bassett, Joyner, Frenchman's Bayou, Birdsong, Denwood, come back up to Dyson, Etowah. The average age of those communities is considerably higher than it is in Blytheville or even Osceola. So accessibility to your services, it's almost impossible for you to respond geographically from where you are to where we have an eye. Now let's make it a little bit personal. My grandson had an accident at Joyner. And fortunately for us, a man that was working late at night saw him, had the wreck, and he called, I guess 911, I don't know, and called his mother and daddy who were at Wilson. His mother was sitting with my mother, our grandmother. She called a neighbor 5 miles down the road who at 1 o'clock in the morning, jumped up, got dressed, came to her. She went next door and got her husband and drove to Frenchman and beat the ambulance. Now, I don't know if there was another call or what, but they beat the ambulance. And the tragedy there is that when they walked up to the truck, they thought he was dead. And there was, nobody there to turn to. But his mother, being kind of ice water in the veins, said, Buck, are you all right? And he said, my head hurts. And everybody relaxed. But, what we do in the healthcare profession is try to make life simpler and make people feel safe. And I'm not sure we've done that from standpoint of accessibility to emergency vehicles and care. I do think, and you brought that up, that the first responders have been an extremely good group of people to reach because, well, to be honest, I have a burglar alarm in my house. First call's to me, second call's to the sheriff, third call's to the first responders, and guess who gets there first? They put 15 people in my yard in a minute. So coordination with first responders, I feel better that we know that. But we used to get together at the hospital. It was the only time I knew about it. We were talking about years ago when there was a county ambulance service and there was a big day. Helicopter showed up, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and everybody knew what to do at a given time. And I'm not here to crucify anybody. I'm here to get help. And unfortunately, okay, I called your former director, what you called him, at Osceola, and set up a meeting. And then he got terminated, and I never got a meeting. But that meeting was strictly over a professional attitude that I'd never run into before. Never, ever with your group run into before, but
And you mentioned he wasn't here.
the person that was involved in that's gone too. I didn't do it. I didn't get there in time.
Yeah.
But
See, so
again,
I
my
do-
purpose is accessibility for the elderly people. You just can't imagine how scary it is to live at Birdsong.
Well, absolutely take everything you say and agree that when we choose to live in a rural area, we have to depend on our friends and neighbors more than ever before. And so that's going to be an important part to make sure that communication and additional training can be gotten to those areas. Understanding that we do attempt to call for an additional ambulance from a different direction if it's going to be a longer response time is important to note, and that we'll continue to do that until something else can be addressed. One of the things that I looked at, because I read the article, I had no idea really what the meeting was about today till I was able to read the article, and we pulled some numbers just to have some numbers. I'm a data person. Like, do I need to put an ambulance somewhere, move an ambulance somewhere else? Does it need to be stationed somewhere else? Are we, having extended response times to an area? But down in Wilson, it was an average of 7 calls a month. Each and every one of those calls is important. don't mistake that. Each and every one of them are important, but understanding the volume in that area helps us also understand where we place our ambulances. So making sure that those 7 people, those 7 patients get just as good a care as anyone else is what mine and your job is. Some way, shape, or form, we have to figure out how to do that. But then understanding the financial side of it, knowing that we can't just place an ambulance in the south end of the county to take care of the problem without, $500,000, then that's where, we have to find other solutions. And I guess that's really what we want to try to do. I sit on, Governor Hutchinson appointed me to the 911 board. Used to be the Blue Ribbon task force for dispatch in Arkansas, and now it's the 911 board. And that's just some things that we all struggle with, is understanding the coverage area of ambulance services around the state. Although I may have a county contract, what is the closest and most appropriate ambulance to call at that very time? And that's something that in the past 25 years, most ambulance providers wouldn't talk to you about it, because they would say, oh, that's my territory, you can't have that call. And thank goodness that the mindset has been changed in our country today, and it's like, who's the closest and can we get that patient help? And so that's really been a hand-holding deal with us in Riverside to the south, and the same way with Emerson and Medic across the river. And so those are all positives to head the right direction. So as for Jessica, we did bring her in, and we were at an all-time low with employees and employee morale during that period of time that you're discussing. I have 37 full-time employees in Mississippi County right now, and several open spots for part-timers. And I like the part-timers to be part-timers because that fills the gaps when somebody needs a day off. So those are positives that I know we're headed in the right direction. Exciting thing is we have 7 EMTs going to graduate paramedic school from out here, I guess in December. Mm-hmm. That adds to the workforce. Those are exciting things that are going on for EMS in Mississippi County. So we're headed in the right direction, and it sounds like with this meeting today, we'll be able to even continue on that road. And it may be a bumpy road, but I think training and things, those are fun things. Those are things we want to do. My goal, and then these guys will tell you, my goal is for you to know my folks before they ever roll up at your house, and hopefully you've seen them at a community event. Hopefully you have confidence in them before they get there. Hopefully we've given them enough additional training to make sure, whether it's a long distance call coming out of Osceola when we come to take a patient, whether it be Memphis or somewhere else, that they're more than qualified to do the job that they need to do. So those are some things at Pafford that I hope that we're adding value to the community by taking care of those issues as we move forward.
I understand, believe me, I understand the economics, and you can't just beat your business up and break it. I do understand that. But there's certain things that we do in the healthcare field that is a lot of times not financially feasible. I'm in a little bit different circumstance than you are because I depend on me, and if I decide to give something away, I just suffer because the Democrats can't get 36% of what I didn't collect. But anyway, working together for this is what is so important. And the other thing that bothers me, and it's not unique with ambulance service or doctor's offices, but in this day and time, attitudes and arrogance drive me up the wall. And that's what I run into sometimes. A dispatcher, regardless whether it's yours or ours, we got a piece of paper in front of us. I'm Dr. Cullen, I got an acute MI, and I'm at 700 West Kaiser. I need the patient's name and birthday.
Unfortunately, they no longer have a piece. That's the biggest problem, is they no longer have a piece of paper in front of them, and it's not as simple as that anymore. I can take a call with a piece of paper and send you right to it, but unfortunately,
bless your heart. Well,
that's where it's at. It's answering the questions on the computer screen that comes up.
Well, I was going to ask, how do you do your center? Whenever I transfer a 911 call to Pafford, how does that go?
Yeah.
I want to know how that goes.
Do you want to answer? So,
Well, I can answer that. So whenever you forward that call in, they ask what the address of the emergency is. They ask them to repeat it. They ask if it's a house, an apartment, or business, because we need to know if we're going to 700 Kaiser, is this a doctor's office, or is this the Walmart, or is this somebody's house, or is it an apartment building? So it's very relevant to know exactly kind of where we're going. And then we ask them to tell us exactly what happened. When they tell us exactly what happened, we put in what that nature is, the reason why we're sending that ambulance, and we hit a button that says send and continue. So at that point, whenever they ask that and they say, okay, ma'am, I have an ambulance on the way, I have a few more questions, or sir, whoever they're talking to.
That's important, what you just said.
Absolutely.
That's the
is.
most important
Sorry,
thing I
I'm
tell my
lying.
dispatchers that they can say, and that's probably the one thing they jump over. And for you to know on the other end that an ambulance is on the way
That's
is
right.
one of the most important sentences those dispatchers can say.
It
And they
is.
forget it a lot of times. But
And
it's
so
done.
at that point, whenever they ask you, whenever they say, tell me exactly what happened, and they say, okay, I'm having chest pain. Okay, sir, I have an ambulance on the way, I have a few more questions. They hit a button that pops it up on that dispatcher screen while they're still on the phone. So the dispatcher is hitting the button to tone the ambulance to give them the information when they say, can you tell me how old that patient is, or how old are you? And the rest of that interrogation. The call has already been dispatched and they are still interrogating. So as they ask those questions and they're going through those protocols, it updates it on that dispatcher screen so that they can see what it is, whether they need to upgrade or downgrade the call at that time.
Thank you.
So that's the process.
That-
Then
that's
we transfer
important.
to a call taker and then it gets to a dispatcher.
You only talk to a call taker the whole time.
Okay.
So the call taker enters this into a computer system. They don't have any pen and paper. They don't.
No.
So they're entering it in. So when they hit the save button, it literally pops it up in front of that dispatcher on their screen
Okay.
and says, we need an ambulance at 123 Main Street in Osceola for a fall. So then they hit the tones, the crew, priority 1 for 700 Kaiser Street for a fall in Osceola. And so while there's 2 different processes going on at the same time, and neither one hear each other.
One of the
Yes.
things that I've noticed as the dispatch center supervisor, 911 center supervisor with the sheriff's department, is that there are times that my dispatchers will still be on the line with Pafford, and we will hear the call go out over the radio because we monitor your radio frequency. So I don't feel like the time delay or lag is between the dispatch centers per se.
No, it's not.
And there's a
Because as
reason
soon
they
as-
stay on the phone. I mean,
I
we
stay on the
appreciate
phone.
that.
I
Yeah,
stay
and
on
we're
the phone
glad.
to make sure the information is given to what I've been given and then what you are given. If
And
there's
then-
something different, I will interrupt
Yep.
and say like, no.
And you guys will call us back sometimes.
I
Hey,
do.
they told us this address, but it's different. And we appreciate that. We're glad.
Yes.
We're thankful for
Now
that.
now depending on the call, you have to realize depending upon what kind of call you get is what kind of, like you said, attitude you're gonna get. If the public don't understand that we're sending it to an ambulance service, but they don't know that y'all are in either Hope, Arkansas or
Well, and they
Louisiana.
shouldn't truly, it shouldn't ever really matter. It should be the
No,
same as if
but
they're
it
talking
does.
to you right here
But
within
it
that
does, you have
county.
no idea, it does. Well, you tell them the address, well, that's impliable, like they're offended. So it's hard, and I'll have to interrupt and be like, oh, it's okay, they're not from around here. And then there's times I've had to call and be like, hey, blah, blah, Walmart, address don't matter, just say blah, blah, Walmart, they'll know where to go.
Right, right. And so as we have those and have those issues, if you could bring those to me real time, we could work with whoever
That
that
is
call
the main
taker is
issue that
to
we
be able
have.
to alleviate that.
That is the main issue we have at the dispatch center for the sheriff's department, is getting the information, y'all asking what's the address, that, a lot of people don't know the address,
Right.
like Walmart.
And that's fine. And we get that
you can
everywhere.
tell-
It's
you
not
can
just
tell-
here.
You
Yeah.
can tell y'all are looking up like Walmart.
Mhm.
So then people that are had, okay, it's on the pharmacy side or the food side, which one
Right.
is it
We
on?
need to know where we need to go
Where
when
it's
we
at.
get there. That's right.
And so you have to ask questions, so then that call taker or the caller gets aggravated because
Don't do it.
So the caller gets
Right.
aggravated with y'all, and I've had to interrupt and like, look, calm down.
One thing to keep in mind though, like, you get the call, they plug in an address. They hit the tones, we head to the trucks move. I mean, state requirements, the reg says 2 minutes, truck's gotta be rolling in 2 minutes. I climb in the ambulance, I've got the computer in front of me, the entire trip where we're going, all of the stuff that is self-populating through the call while the truck's running. We're running down the highway, so you get a call that says chest pain. Okay, it's chest pain, you get in the ambulance and we're rolling, then you get respiratory distress, wheezing in their lungs, they're diabetic, they already took an aspirin. So when I get to the house, everything that was discussed is there. And it's not unusual for, the response times stay pretty good to the point that We pull up at the house, I walk in and sit down by the patient, and you're still on the phone with them. That happens on a regular basis every day.
And I didn't mean to be disrespectful about the paper comment, because
No,
anytime
it's okay.
I read back over when I listen back to the call, I can pretty much tell you everything that the person on the other line said on my piece of paper, because I'm used to doing it that way. But unfortunately, due to lawsuits and everything else, we are an emergency medical dispatch center. We are certified throughout our center, and so unfortunately, they have their guidelines to follow. As monotonous as they are, they do save lives on the backside, whether they know what to take into the house when they get it, or I'm telling you what you need to be doing to your family member until the ambulance or the first responders get there. So those pre-arrival instructions that go along with that Pafford offers the county is huge to someone that lives out in the county and don't know what to do with their loved one, or the first responders haven't gotten there yet. And so those are some things we just have to work on. But you're right, the most important thing they can say is, I have an ambulance on the way, let me ask you a few more questions. But it's invaluable to me for them, and they do it, and it's not just this county, all of the counties do that. I have 14 counties in Arkansas, by the way, that we operate the ambulance service in. And it's all of them. Marianne, they'll stay on the phone and they'll question, or you don't understand, they'll repeat it to the dispatcher that's, the call taker that's there. So that relationship is there to ensure that we're headed to the right place, and so, but hope that's helpful. Yes, ma'am.
The piece of paper deal didn't bother me at all, honey. I'm not arrogant at all, but and you answered the question, because my biggest problem is I get someone that I feel like doesn't understand the medical situation, and they're asking questions, and he can tell you, a lot of times I've called and said, it ain't code 3, it's code 4, and I want you here 15 minutes ago. I'm kidding, but sometimes that doesn't go over. I say that to somebody.
You've always been that way, though. But you've always followed the rule. You treat everybody like family, and you never had a problem.
That's the problem that I
That's
have.
what
I've
we
been
do.
doing
I think at one time we
medicine
actually
48
had a
years.
thing above the thing that says, if Dr. Cullum calls, don't ask any questions.
Hey, you don't know how much I appreciate that.
She's not
Like my
kidding.
children.
We really did have that.
Y'all need to bronze that.
I have a question before, okay.
ahead.
I had 2 questions that just kind of maybe help answer, or maybe I'm confused with some of the things that Dr. Cullum asked. So one, I definitely, who is the keeper of the emergency responders in Arkansas? I mean, should that be something that our 911 office has and says, okay, all of our, in Mississippi County, out in Birdsong, then hey, do we have a list of anybody out there who can get their, I mean, who has that information? If we have all these emergency responders, who knows who they are?
What would happen is, this would be, when I've worked with emergency responders before, I worked in Osceola for years, for a couple of years. And that, back then, they had Rescue 20. Now, that's how long ago that's been. They did all of our extrication for the county ambulance service. And what would happen is, when they called, the dispatch center would then page out the fire department for their first responders. And what would happen is, if they had like a call, let's say in Wilson, and they had first responders, they would page out Wilson's fire department to respond to that location. And that is the 911
All right,
dispatch.
got you. So that makes sense. So from the 911 in Mississippi County, you know, hey, how to contact the fire department, and the fire department knows who they have out there in that community for those areas, right? Okay. All right, so that answers that question. Then my second question was, is you touched on the fact that obviously it's not economical to station an ambulance in an area that may get 1 call a year. For the areas of the county, like he's talking about, Birdsong, Dice, or whatever, is there any kind of relationship, or would it be with another ambulance service potentially in Crittenden County that could get to those people faster than you guys can
We
in
contact
Mississippi
them.
County?
We
I was
contact them
gonna
live.
ask, because I know
We
I've
did.
heard
Okay.
Because when you get down over, like some further, Riverside's got a truck at Lepanto.
Right,
And
okay.
when we get a call, we dispatch trucks coming from Osceola. Okay, it's a long way. And we always tell our dispatch, contact Riverside, contact a truck in Crittenden County, see if they're closer.
Okay,
And if it's, if you get something that's really, really critical, cardiac arrest, MVA, calling for helicopters, go on ahead and send them, and we'll all get there at some point, and you've got extra help.
okay, that's what
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things
that
we,
happens
as a
live.
board, wanna make sure that, I mean, we don't want you to get in any kind of a match as far as,
No,
this is
no,
my
it's-
territory. We just want the
It's
citizens
the
to
more
have
the
access.
merrier, whatever
It
works
is,
best
but
for
the,
the patient.
the state, gives everyone licenses per county, is how that, whether you have a county license is what you do.
Okay.
And that's what, he can't put a base in Mississippi County, and I can't put a base in Crittenden.
Okay,
And we've been very blessed with the fact that Crittenden has had a lot of issues recently with their ambulance services. Robert Fox is on my speed dial. I know the owner very well at Riverside. And so, I mean, we have a good working relationship with him, and he's more on our end of the county that can help us. So that's just something that you do. I mean, like I said, there's 85, 90 calls in Wilson down there in that direction. So it's just what it is, and we call and ask.
Okay.
That's all you do is ask.
Right.
I mean, he's not bound, and we can't bind him, but if they have a free truck, they're sending it.
okay, that's
It's
helpful.
like a
And we do the
mutual aid
same.
agreement with the fire department.
Yeah, we do the same. I mean, if they ask us to go, it's hard to say no.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, you never say no to a call for help.
I left out a group in here that could be potential first responders, and it'll be up to them if they want to do it. The sheriff's department might have some people that wanted to do that training. I don't know, but I would leave that up to
You have to
them.
realize during COVID, we did not ask for people to do that. We had more fire departments tell us that they were not going, and we didn't blame them. I mean, just the PPE that we had to get to everyone and things like that. I mean, they weren't gonna put their lives at risk. So this is really about a reset. If you ask me personally, I feel like it's a reset for us to make sure that we get everybody that we can call, and we wanna do a ring down to the fire department, the first responders, that they can do that in that direction. That's what we need to do.
I just don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah.
One question.
Hold it,
In response to an emergency, do you automatically call air?
No.
Okay. Because another complaint I get, and is that, hey, for instance, the grandson was alerting away, and rather than transporting him, their helicopter was called. Now, I know you got a triage problem there, you got to decide, but I had a man with an amputated finger, and of course it was at one of the steel mills, and ended up flying him. Look at the cost of that. Nobody, if you're not part of their
Or if
program.
it's my finger or your finger, I'm gonna get there quicker than you do.
Hey, I'll trade a finger for $50,000.
So how that normally works
They're
is
like insurance, man.
within our dispatch center, we have a list of protocols. If it's a multi-vehicle collision, if it is an amputation, if it is an extrication, if there's certain criteria that we do put a helicopter on standby for. We do not launch until that crew member tells us, okay, you need to go fly them. And then
I was
we
interested in
back to
triage,
LCs.
yes,
But
ma'am.
it does, yes. And usually we get most of that information through dispatch whenever we're asking the questions for the pre-arrival. And so that we have a protocol for that, and it tells us what things happen that we have to put one on standby.
And, I saw the comment, who's in here from the newspaper? Okay, and I saw the comment in here about the steel mill and them putting in their own ambulance service. We've had numerous conversations over the years. They like having their own people there. It's not an ambulance service, it's someone taking care of their own people on site. And that's what that working relationship is. It's not about,
Newport is the same thing.
Yeah,
They have an
yeah.
ambulance and they have EMTs that they employ at their mill. And it's always been
Yeah, a
there,
long
yes.
time.
So that is something that they have currently done for
But
a
it doesn't
long
help
period of
you.
It doesn't
That's
help your
partially
community.
true.
Yeah.
The only time they call us for an ambulance at Newport is if it's major, major. And then that's when they call us and send y'all. That's one thing they do.
And I don't, when someone, and it's the same way with a wreck, because everybody, and you can armchair quarterback the fact that a helicopter came and it wasn't needed for whatever reason, or they didn't need it. Well, praise the Lord, they didn't need it, but it was there for them to have. And just making sure that, one, we have the resource in the community that we can utilize when we need to. We need to be mindful of it and make sure that it's, medically necessary to go by ambulance, first and foremost. And sometimes you may get it wrong, but at the same time, you have all those factors. I'm talking to everybody else in the room because the doc knows this, is you have all those other factors that come into play why you call an ambulance and why you call an air ambulance. And it doesn't matter to me what it says or what your sticker on the back of your car says. He's not looking to see which one he ought to call or who you're a member of. That does not, it's irrelevant to us. It's who can get there in the most timely fashion and get that patient to the care they need.
I think it goes back to triage, is what I was talking about. And, you get these old stories about convenience. The ambulance didn't come because it was shift change, so we had to wait. Well, in most of those cases, it's a routine transfer anyway, so I don't listen to that. But we do have situations sometimes where your calls stack up. Now, those are routine transfer calls. And then you'll get somebody that doesn't understand, and you got a ruptured appendix, and you got 3 transfers. You got to be careful. That person that's doing that might not triage a ruptured appendix.
And the hospital will attest to this. We've always given that doctor the power to say, I need this patient to go now. And it's not every day of the week that happens. It's not every month that happens, because that means that I'm willing to take an ambulance out of service in our service area, the county that we're covering, and send that patient because that doctor said now. When that doctor says now, he really needs to know that I'm putting everything else on the line to take care of his patient at that moment because he says it's got to go now. It bypasses everybody else. They know, Felicia, they know how to call us and say, this is the real deal, please. We've got to do something to get this patient out. And that's the way those ambulance calls are worked like that. We understand there's gonna be line bumping and things like that. But y'all run about 500 transports a month in this county. Now, we make more responses than that, but and so that's really where I generate my revenues, is from those actual calls that we actually transport patients on. You gotta realize, I don't get anything if I go out and check you and take your blood pressure and you decide you need some oxygen or whatever. I don't get reimbursed for those calls. That's a dry run for us, but they do whatever they need to do to take care of that situation at the time. So that's kind of how that works. But we have given the right to the hospitals to know when they need to say, I got to have this patient out, I don't know what else is going on, but this has to go. They have the right to do that. And then I have to take the heat from any board or anybody else because I sent, whether it was the last ambulance in the county or whatever the situation is. That's what I'm dealing with, is taking care of the whole county as a whole and not just one little target area. But the physician has the right to make that call. And we have pretty good relationships with most of them.
So let me throw a monkey wrench in that and just ask a question. You have a heart attack and an LVA and some other calls. Do your call takers realize that, or do they triage to some degree on that?
Yeah, but they're the 6 trucks that are in the county. I mean, they've got to go where they go. We may be dropping off at a nursing home.
Yeah, but you may have 4 of them on transfers.
Yeah, but that's just
wouldn't cover those 2
So
calls.
we have to call for help just like everybody else. I mean, when you're tapped out, you're tapped out. We call the rescue squad when there's those situations, and they are helpful in some instances when they can come. And so you're just gonna have those Fridays that you just cannot catch up.
Young lady over here ask a question.
You know me. I used to work for you, Donna Razor. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about was the training of the employees. Now, Charles has been here forever. He was here back when the hospital had service. I do a lot of training at Big River. I train their first responders, and their complaint is that the employees, it's the long 40-minute response time in an emergency that they have to wait. And then the disrespect, they don't even want to listen to a report. We're talking about community training. We need to know the new folks that come on board, are they trained in our area? do they get on the truck and explore the area and know, hey, this is Big River Steel, this is Domino's Pizza, the hospital's over here, and we're finding that a lot of them don't. They're not even from the area, but they don't get out there and explore the area.
So during COVID, we had a period of time when we were short-staffed here, and we brought in our specialty response team. I go all over the country with a specialty response team that does not take away from the Mississippi County folks. And we brought in additional help during a period of time during COVID. We never shut down. We never cut trucks. We never sent anybody home. We didn't cut wings of the hospital. We were still in business taking care of what we had to do in the communities. During that period of time, I asked some of my specialty response teams to come up and help cover some shifts. Now, you very well could have gotten someone during that period of time that did that, but they all know that, you know, I'm a family business. I expect everyone to be on their best behavior. I want you to treat your patient as if it was the family member that you like, not the one that you dislike. And then you still got the one you dislike that day. But really, it is about taking care of the patient and having a good attitude. And I have no doubt that, and I've heard that. That's not only, that's just, I hate to tell you, but paragods, you sometimes y'all are pain in the butt. But their attitudes aren't always
and it
best.
is that, and when I train these folks, it's law.
Well,
We
I
have
want to
to have
address
that
the time
continuity
period.
of-
I've heard 40 minutes numerous times in this room, and we did a report just this morning to make sure that the 30, 45 an hour time thing, we went back to January, and we had 45 calls. Help me with the numbers just a
It
little
was
bit.
45 calls out of Wilson, but we didn't, and in Wilson, the average time from the guys getting dispatched was, we had 11 minutes, 13 minutes, 15 minutes. We had one that was 22 minutes, and that's where I don't understand. Well, I went through everything, printed off, let these guys see. Charles, I said, hey man, I want you to check me, because if we have a problem, I want to fix it. And he double checked, and I cannot find a 40 minutes response time from when these guys get dispatched until they get there. And if there it is, you know, we want to see it and fix
So
it.
the 40 minute, like when you have a thing like that, it's 40 minutes or something, somebody needs to be checking the next day to see what happened.
Between your
Well,
calls
this
and
is a conversation come up during class. And I teach them, you know, the continuity of care. You must give a report. Those first responders are more important than the EMS people that show up, because they have the first impression of that patient. They do the first treatment. And when I want to train these guys, I want to train them properly, give the report. That's important information. Nobody wants to give them any attention. They don't want to take the report. So this gives the attitude that, you know, what am I supposed to do? They ask. They don't want to listen to us. They ignore us. We got it, and shut the doors in their face. So how do we train our area?
You continue to do the training just as you're doing, and we need to have a better relationship with each and every fire department that there is, so that they know, hey, he's walking in the door and he
I
knows
train in
this.
industrial areas.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah, it would be great to have a relationship where
I think-
everybody works together.
Right, so what we do, when we hire somebody, I do the interview. We interview them, we see if they're a good fit. And so they do anywhere from 72 to 120 hours riding on the truck with these guys. First day, no driving. I mean, you know, we're not gonna throw somebody brand new driving an ambulance. You're gonna learn where everything is at ambulance. You're gonna learn our equipment. These guys, and we have a weekly checkup where everybody they ride with, the trainers. Hey, where is Garrett at today? Where is Brandy? You know, what do we need to work on? Well, this person, wonderful on scene, needs a little bit more driving. Okay, go around town driving. So that part training we're doing, what we can incorporate with you, I think that would fix that, and start from scratch. And each one of our crews, hey, let's set up whenever you need training. Let's bring a truck over there and say, hey, look, this is what we do on scene. You know, we get the glucose, we get the vital signs, we get the initial impression, and then we tell you guys, and then let's do a training thing where we know what to expect from you guys, and then you guys know what to expect, and have that where they know Charles, you know, where they know Rick, where they know Tommy.
These guys
And
want to know.
Absolutely, every
Right.
first responder, that's what, you know.
They're excited, they want to learn,
Exactly.
they want to help.
Right,
And
that's,
they're young, you know, and they really want to, they're not 20 years into service, because when I was paramedic, it was like, oh, you know. But when I'm teaching them, I teach them from the aspect that when I was first taught. They still had that excitement. They want to learn everything they can, but then when they hit that wall,
Yeah.
they don't know what to do because they haven't been in it very long and they don't do it on a daily basis.
Right.
So when something bad happens, they're really nervous. They want to know that they did everything right, and then I love first responders. Some folks don't, but they don't get that camaraderie, that relationship between the first responders and the EMS personnel, whether it's on an ambulance or a helicopter, whatever the situation. They need to be able to communicate. That way they're more open with what they've seen and done.
Absolutely, and we can learn from each other. And, you know, these guys y'all see a whole lot of trauma out still. You know, and we see a lot of medical out in the community because, you know, we're sick. And we can, when you do your training, or if you just want to set up a quarterly, you know, where, hey, we're going to go over this.
Can we come meet you?
Come meet and say, hey, this
Because
is.
not everybody's been here, you know, like the folks in this room been here all your life, and you go in somewhere and you know everybody and you see these people. They need to see and we need to meet so that, you know, when you
Yeah,
get
because
there,
I
it's
don't
like,
recognize
you know,
anybody.
you pull up out in Armorel somewhere, hey, Mark Ranger, what you got, how you doing?
Hey, no name dropping.
But I think that would be an easy
That
fix
would
if we
be-
could set up where you do your training and we can go out. And I know like fire departments, they mostly have Monday night meetings. Let's get together, let's cook some hot dogs, hamburgers,
I hope
and
they're not on a diet, we limit donuts
That's
today.
what we used to do a lot
We
of
gotta eat.
back in the day, is we used to
I
have
like it.
dinners and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
invite the
yeah.
paramedics and invite everybody in, and let everybody just, you know, eat and talk and meet and whatnot. We don't do that anymore.
Do y'all have a monthly fire department meeting like every Monday night, where all the chiefs get together and,
We try to. We had a period of time where we didn't have hardly any personnel, and all of our personnel is like me, are old and can't do nothing. And so, but now I've
Talk
got
about
a
old.
lot of new people, and they need to be trained in first responders. They need to have it, and they're willing, you know.
and we'd be more than happy if you want, you know, us to come to your fire department, or if you want to come to our training room upstairs at the Bible base. And I don't know if y'all are aware or not, but we purchased a new building in Osceola that is, what, how many square feet? I don't even remember, but it's huge, and we're gonna have a whole training building and room in Osceola to set up.
And I don't know if y'all have ever seen our Osceola station, but our guys are excited.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Okay. Listen, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sort of line this down real quick, because I think what we've done is open the lines of communications. I would love for you to pass out your cards, let these guys know. I'd love for y'all to contact them and work with them. I don't think this is something this committee can totally fix, but I think we can help by opening the lines of communications, getting you guys together to talk about it. COVID put us all out of the loop, okay? No doubt about it.
Some of us didn't care.
Well, some of us went to work every day, just like we always have. And, you know, and the only time we missed was when we were in the hospital for COVID.
And if anybody has any problems with attitude, and Charles can be one of my witnesses, that's the big thing is, and I tell everybody this, if Tammy Trichelle needs an ambulance, they better get a good paramedic and somebody that's nice to them. That's what we tell everybody, that you treat them like
Make the
family.
phone
Doc, I don't know if you remember, I picked up a patient from your office and brought to the med, and I was like, man, that doctor was on it. You came and talked to me and gave me a report. Most doctors don't do that, but we had a person this was going on, it's bradycardia, needs to go to the med for this, she recently had a stroke, and I remember that, because I was like, man, you know, he actually gave the report.
Much easier to do it that way.
And so if anybody has a problem where they feel like they're disrespected, or a paramedic or EMT is not listening, please let us know, because that's not, you know, reflection of them is a reflection of Charles and I, and that's not how we operate.
One time in 48 years, it happened with one of your employees, and I just turned to the guy that's working with the girl. Excuse me, I said, you put up with that smart ass all the time. He went like that. And then, like say, somebody was terminated and she didn't come back, and
And we want to know, we want to take
well, if I wasn't in a position with a patient sitting there with eyes that big and chest pain. And the follow-up on the story is the patient had a 99% LAD and got a stent that day. While I'm discussing that the patient got a normal EKG with a paramedic.
Yeah, and you should.
That was a personal affront for me there, but that's only once in 48 years,
And we
okay?
don't want that to ever happen again.
Bottom line is, I brought it up because where I live, accessibility is scary. And
Y'all have a
that's
really
what
good
I want
campaign.
to work on with you all. And I've already visited with Chief of Police in Osceola and some of the others on our first responders. Didn't know how much coordination there was, but those are the people that can take that anxiety expression off those people's faces until you all get there.
Yes, sir.
And I want to ride, when you can get from your ambulance department to Wilson in 11 minutes, I got a red Corvette, and if that light's red, I can't make it.
Yeah, they go through.
I got one question before we wind it down though. As a healthcare provider myself, Luke Modesty, I'm Chief of Army Fire Department, also a member of the emergency squad. How can we get to the point where if I go home tonight and I need an ambulance, and I call an ambulance, that I can guarantee I'm getting a paramedic truck?
So we're fully staffed with paramedics right now. Thank you.
Right, but yesterday, the squad was put on call 3 times. It's every day. But that's, how can we guarantee we're gonna get a paramedic truck?
So yesterday, the squad did get placed on standby twice. One was and I was available in the sprint car, but they obviously put the squad on standby. Yesterday, we flew 4 patients out. He called a MI, there was 2 wrecks. Yesterday, it just all happened at once and all the calls went out. Far as like transfers, I know somebody said that earlier, unless it's like a stroke, STEMI, we hold the transfers at the hospital to make sure there's a 911 ALS ambulance in this county. And that's been a communication between the hospital in Osceola and Great Rivers that we make sure y'all have the ambulance. When stuff like that happens, when we use 4 helicopters in one day.
In 2 hours.
Yeah, see, I
Well,
mean,
I get it.
There's times that
And
you
that's
can't,
just-
when
just
it
times.
hits the fan, you can't help it. But
do we put the squad on standby when we still have units available just to be sure we do?
And I think
that's
just
been-
clarifying what that really means and where we're at. In other words, are we really status 0, or are they unloading at the hospital, or why did that dispatcher put them on standby and doing that? Because, one of my concerns was early on is the fact that why are we putting them on standby so much? Do we need to add additional staffing? And can we add additional staffing? And so, it's economics. It's how many calls that you have a month versus what comes and goes. And you guys know that as well as anyone. Most of you are your own business. So that's where we're at with that. I think the blessing is really that we are fully staffed with paramedics on all 6 of our trucks. Now, in the past, we've added, and it really is according, and the doctor can tell you, it's according what census is around and how many patients are sick or going to the hospital and being transported out. That's all coming back. I mean, you're starting to see everything pick up, and you're starting to see more calls, more happening, more people getting out, all those kind of things, which drives your numbers up and making sure you just have proper coverage. And so that's really where we're at, is that I want to do my best to guarantee you a paramedic ambulance, and that's what we all would love to have roll up. But it's just according to what moment in time it is to make sure that happens. So the goal is 6 for this community, because that's what this county will take without additional revenues coming from a source. Because you're not going to have enough for that 7th, you're not going to make that payroll without help, because, if it picks up 30 calls, it's not going to. It has to have some assistance to get that extra truck on there. That takes the burden off of the other sources.
Do you have the ability for on-call? Because say you're running a day and you have your 6 in the county, but you're noticing you're sending your ambulances out quite a bit. I'm afraid, I live here, this is my community, that the squad is going to be responsible. I'm also a member of the squad, but we can only use our basic skills, even as a paramedic. Like, you can't do it. And it terrifies me that we're getting called out for MIs and major trauma, and there's limits to the things that we can do because y'all are gone. Is there an ability for you to have somebody on call that you're not having to pay full
So
salary?
it's not the monetary side of that. It's
Because
really
we never
about,
know when something's gonna happen.
it's about the staffing in your community. I'm excited about the 7 paramedic students coming off in December. You don't have a lot of staff in this community. A lot of the older guys, like you talked about, you don't see anybody on the ambulance anymore. Bless them, they got off the ambulance. Thank goodness whether hate to tell you, getting old. You know, and they look for other employment that's a little bit easier on our bodies than what we do when we're younger. So we're excited about those next group that's coming up, that we all might not know their faces, but they are from here. And, you know, of the 37 folks that are from here, there's only a handful that's not from Mississippi County. And so that's what you want to grow them with from within. That's why being able to have a first responder class with all the fire departments, somebody might get that spark like you're talking that you think your students have, that want to do more, learn more. That's what you want from the whole deal, is to grow them and develop them that way. But, you know, you have a commitment from me to make sure that we're addressing the problem, and we'll start with trying to put a quarterly just fire chiefs meeting on the books to see what training they want, and what do they need, and do they want to be involved in it, and making sure that dispatch knows who's on first and who's on second and wants to be in the ball game. And then if you want reports, because it's my name on the side of the ambulance, and if I'm taking too long to get there, then it is going to affect me later on. We want to address those concerns when you think you have
I
time
got
to.
your card now, so
worry about it.
I'll call you myself.
Yeah, so we want to look those up, you know, we'll look those up and address those, that's what it's all about. I appreciate y'all's time today. I know this meeting went really long, but y'all, you know, I think that was the goal, is to make sure that we addressed as much as we could, and
My goal here was to get us all talking. You got to find out who we need to talk to. You've got your operations manager here for Blythe, and apparently Osceola too.
Yes, sir.
So
We're
now we
looking
know
for a
who to
tree with a
contact.
noose, okay?
Thank you very much for coming. I got a gentleman has a question for the sheriff, I think.
Yeah, it's between both y'all actually. Past last month and this month, there's been a couple calls that the sheriff's office got, but we wasn't paged out, and that's for the night shift. It seems like they're not paging us some for verdict of sort. And there's been some calls that they haven't, I ain't heard no traffic over the radio, and they'll send an ambulance to Luxor, and, you know, we don't hear about it. So communication somewhere, you know, just.
I can speak to that to some degree. If that call comes straight into the Pafford ambulance base itself and is not ran through 911 or the sheriff's department, we have no knowledge of that until we hear their trucks rolling on the radio. We've had deputies patrolling in certain areas and say, where's Pafford going?
Yeah.
Where are they going? We don't know. At that point, our dispatch center will contact Pafford and say, what have you got? Where are they going? Do you need our assistance? Always someone with a high fever, they're just asking for a transfer. We're probably not gonna run a deputy to that call at that point.
We let them know.
Yeah.
We let all of our deputies know of every medical emergency that's going on in the county. I contact the city, let their dispatch center know. I call Osceola Police Department, let their dispatch center know. Whether they send officers, that's up to them. As far as the county, I let every officer know where they're going, what's going on.
What's
And
the,
the question back, are you talking about a fire text? Is that the system that you're using for the page out?
yeah, that's the only thing we got.
Okay.
That and the radio.
It's been
With
up
that-
and down.
With that being said, there have been some computer problems, not on our end, on the fire tech side of things. I'm on the Leachville Fire Department as well as work for the Sheriff's Department. There are times that I'll hear a call come out on the radio and I never get that fire text. So,
Yeah.
but it's been sent. So, to make sure that that system is functioning properly, contact me. I've got business cards in my pocket as well. I will have my girls that work in that dispatch center, we'll do a test page once a week,
We
once a
just-
month, whatever we need to do to make sure that those systems are working properly.
We actually just added Osceola Fire Department to our console page system, where we can talk to the Osceola Fire Department now too, instead of just calling on the phone. We have two different paging systems. We have fire text and we have a console through AWINS, where we can page out through them. If you don't get through console, you might get it through fire text. You should always get through the console. If you do not, please contact us and let us know.
Is there any way you can, like, just like Luxor Fire, y'all got a call, or is that recommended? Can y'all do that, or?
Like going with the radio,
Yeah,
well, if you're a volunteer fire department, if you have your radios on, you're
I
always.
keep mine on me. I'm pretty much the only first responder. I got two more, but they're work full time, and
And
We send fire texts to Luxor and Burnett, which are pretty much the same one and one, aren't you?
yeah,
So we send. fire
that's where it
texts.
hurts us.
Yeah, because there's not very many people. But when you page out Burnett, sometimes you're getting Luxor.
Yeah, you're probably hearing me on there.
On both of them, I do
Yeah.
agree on both of them. So,
So,
that is one thing, I mean, we can, if you want us to contact you on the digital channel if you're listening, but what if you're not listening?
yeah,
So
that's
that's
true.
another thing. At nighttime, you're asleep. So we can do the paging system. I don't know if everybody responds. There's sometimes that Luxor has not responded to us medical call. It's
Yeah.
been a while back, years ago, I can't, I've been working for
Yeah,
14
it's
years
been
there,
terrible.
so I can't vouch for every call, but there's some that they don't get there. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
So I mean.
There
we're
for a
paging
while,
out.
we didn't have radio, so.
Exactly.
But
So, I mean, they are paging out.
just kind of curious as to what I could do, you know, might be able to help her or whatever with the situation.
I think encouraging everyone to use 911 is one of the biggest things that all of us can do. We don't want anyone calling a 7-digit phone number. That doesn't really, it goes through our system differently, it's not recorded. I mean, we want people to call 911 when they have an emergency, and then the folks will get them the right help they need.
One more question. This came up in a class. When there's a bad scene and the first responders know that it's a bad scene, they are told they cannot call for a helicopter until Packard arrives and the medic on the truck will call. Is that not something?
That's not true.
That's not true. The earlier the recognition,
Early
the better. We
response.
can always turn them
That's what I
around.
told them. That's what I
Yeah,
told them. That's
always.
how I trained them.
Yeah.
Scene size
They
up,
are,
get them en route, and if
Okay.
we need to cancel them, we cancel them.
That's
And
what
so,
I-
and you
Yeah.
know, further back, probably back when you were medic, then the issue was there were more than one helicopter in the area, and people were calling different helicopters would come to the same scene. And one, that's a waste of resources. Two, that, I mean, it's not what you want. So making sure that someone in control knows that there's been a helicopter called, you don't need to call another one, don't call the other number that you got on your speed dial. That's more the communication, making sure that the right resources at the right time contact.
Sheriff, you got something?
I just got one comment. I think this meeting's great. I'm glad that, James, you brought some of your staff here. I think with the fire departments and the chiefs here, someone needs to set up at least a quarterly meeting between your folks and the fire departments and have this training and communication link back and forth and even with our dispatchers. So we can talk over the past quarter, if nothing else, and any issues we had and address them then too. But that training to help the first responders, I think, is critical. And you guys, then y'all have access to their expertise and can glean information from them too and know these people. They know our people one-on-one, face-to-face until they change and we have to do it again. But we need to have a coordinator to do at least a quarterly training session.
I was just hoping, you know, if you happen to know all the email address, I mean, somebody needs to start the email chain. I have a couple of counties that we're real big. We have a fire EMS email thread, and it's every fire chief in the county. And then we have, we just went to every 6 weeks meetings, but we have a meeting every month and do training or what, but they're spacing theirs out. We address their problems. It was in Oklahoma. We addressed their problems. We met monthly till we ironed them all out. We got everybody trained. So really, we need just a point of contact that's from the county that, and I've kind of, I've paid attention.
Like what I would do.
But it just seems like you really want to train all these.
I was having an order, Super Wayne was on.
I think it's a voluntary group. I think
Oh, yeah.
Now that I say something.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, the other one can-
Hey, stand up down there, wave your hand and say, hey, I got this.
Hey,
Wayne is on.
Sounds exactly like what the Office of Emergency Management
That's
said
what
in
that
911
is
guy
right
did.
here. Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne.
Sounds like a good idea.
Thank
Folks,
you.
on that, thank you everyone for coming. We're gonna adjourn the meeting. Y'all are welcome to stay and talk to each other because I know that there's new contacts here. But let's, you know, we do need to work this, but we are adjourned at this time.
You got a hot date?